What is going on, All Terrain Nation? Whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or these wicked little mid-sized trucks we all like to drive, this is your All Terrain Nation, and I'm your host, David Boyd. And today we have a special guest. Now, one of the special guests, he's running late for some reason. I think it's because it's probably 11 degrees or negative 11 degrees where he's at, and I don't think it's that cold where you're at, John.
No, it's only 47 right now.
That's kind of cold for your area, though, right?
It is definitely. Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was like, what in the world is going on? Next Tuesday, I think it's going to be down in the 20s. We're going to have a low of 20. Just a crazy storm blowing through everywhere.
Yeah, we're supposed to get like 6 inches of snow here in the Nashville area, and they'll close schools down. It'll be a mess. People go crazy. They'll run for milk and bread. I don't know what they do with it, but it's the way of the world, man. Well, John, I got to meet you in Chicago like for a split second. Me and Tim were at a table talking, and I think you had business to do. You were like, "Hey, Tim, gotta go.
Yeah,
I'm a busy
it
man."
was super brief.
Yeah, but I've been wanting to talk to you for quite a while because you are one of the kings of Toyota. Like, if you want to know things on the YouTubes, you go to John TRD Jon for the info, and you crank out like the content you crank out all the time. Is just trips me out because it's like what, a couple times a week at minimum.
Yeah, I aim for like 4 to 5 videos, but sometimes information goes a little stale or it rains for like 5 days on end, and I can't record content with my own vehicle in the Sunshine State. But yeah, I try to get information out there as quick as possible if I can.
Well, I want to start into this a little bit because I think you have a military background, right?
Yeah, correct.
For one, thanks for your service on that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Two, how did you go from the military into talking Toyota products?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So my very first vehicle was a second gen Forerunner, and we grew up with trucks and Fords and Chevys and stuff like my whole life. And my parents had some Toyotas, but like my first vehicle was a Forerunner, and I just loved it. It had the 3-point slow in it. It was totally gutless, but it was just a super clean, beautiful California car. It was so nice, and I wish I didn't sell it for what I sold it for now. But I always wanted a truck too, so I got a Silverado. And then once I had the Silverado, I was like, I really want a Forerunner again. So fast forward a couple years, and I got a Cavalry Blue TRD Pro Forerunner. I didn't know how rare it was at the time, and just made a couple of YouTube videos on it. And then that just started to steamroll this channel, and it was a hobby. And basically, when the world started shutting down, the military was like, hey, we want you guys for 2 weeks, and then the other half of the shop come in for the other 2 weeks. That way, less contact, whatever. And I really focused on all my hobbies and everything else, and I could see that the value was starting to outweigh what Uncle Sam was paying me. So I just made the transition. I was at the end of my contract, and it's been good so far. So I just went head first into that pool, and it's just been awesome so far.
Well, what was the first video though where you noticed like, oh man, this is because if you're trying to get into YouTube, it's always the first 1,000 subscribers. You want to do that so you can try to get monetized, and then you see a couple dollars and like, oh wow. But what was that first one where you're like, oh okay, I could try to make a living at doing this a little bit?
Well, I think no, I don't think I was full time yet, but maybe I was. But the Sequoia video, I was one of the very first. Toyota Jeff and we signed up for the first slot for the Toyota Sequoia when creators had it, and the embargo was already lifted. So like if you got one-on-one time with that car, you could go back to the room, edit the video real quick, and put it up. And mine was like one of the first on the internet of like no one around, it's just the car. And I think it got like 1.6 million views or something like that. It had
Wow,
it had like 30,000 views within the first hour and a half, which is
that's
just
nuts.
stupid. I've never had anything like it again. But per million views on an over 8-minute video, that's typically pretty okay money. So I was like, holy smokes, like this is possible. And then it makes your head think of like, wait a minute, there's some dudes that get like 2 million views a video. Like how much are they
Yeah,
making? It's crazy. But it's never been the money for me. It's always been like helping people out. But like
right.
that was just a nice little bonus, especially in January when monetization's so bad. I was just like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, for those who don't know, January, like you literally can see December 31st for as the pay rate.
Mhm.
January 1, it just they just like pull advertising and yeah, it gets a little rough for us guys. Um, so the Sequoia, what is this the new generation Sequoia you're talking about?
Yes, correct. And I am pushing this real quick to my audience. Is Tim joining us?
I'm gonna Facebook him again, man. See what he's up
Okay.
to.
I'm just saying live with All Terrain Nation right now,
All
and
right.
I'm just gonna push it real quick. Sorry if that's
Oh, you're
unprofessional to
you're
say in the
perfectly
middle of
fine.
that. Okay.
Perfectly fine. So what was your impressions? Because I owned the first generation Sequoia. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
That little V8 in that thing was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Actually got fairly good fuel economy in that as well. And I never felt like it was too big. And by the time they got kind of to that second generation, I just felt like it was bloated. They tried to. It's like Toyota Japan goes, oh, Americans want big. They don't want it. Just like it just grew crazy. And then this new generation, which I've been very impressed with. Oh, sorry. Tim says he's having some issues. He's gonna have to pass on this one, guys. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But the latest generation, I got to drive that thing, and man, that to me is a almost perfect vehicle. I like the size of it. I know it gets a little bit of crap for the rear cargo room of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's aggressive looking, especially once you put some aggressive tires on it. And it's just like those sharp body lines really come together. Out of all three of them, where are you at with these?
Yeah, so the first gen I've never experienced, but I had that powertrain in a Tundra that I had. So the 4.7 is great. It is such a smooth engine. It's not too much power. It's not too little of power. It's such a good engine. So I 100% agree with you on that. The second gen I had in Alaska. I didn't own it. We had it as a rental car, and that thing you could fit like 8, 9 Air Force dudes in it and like go from the flight line to the bar to wherever you were going to a restaurant and stuff. And that had a lot of room, especially in the back seat too, for being like the size of a Tahoe at the time, right?
Right.
The third gen, we had one for like 6 months, and it was expensive, so that like
Yes.
helped us sell it as well. But the power was just stupid with it. If you just think of the first 2 rows of that vehicle, it's great. For me, it also kind of loses it in the back.
Yeah.
And we don't have like a family with kids and strollers and all that stuff that I feel like would have made that experience worse. But our dogs like to go with us in some places, and them in the back of the Forerunner, dude, they love it, right? I mean, it's super flat. They roll the window down. They're like, "Oh, this is awesome." And the Sequoia, our husky, had his like head hunched in the back just because of the seats and everything. So it wasn't dog friendly either. But
The dog said no, huh?
yeah, the dog said, "No, you got to sell this, Dad." I'm like, "All right, dog."
I'm very surprised though because Toyota's taken even with the new Tundra they've taken some heat with that engine, and I
Hmm.
don't know why because it I think Toyota nailed, and this is all going to the little trucks, but I think they nailed the way to do a hybrid, the way to get you less cylinders because we need less cylinders because the environmental standards are
Hmm.
just getting stricter and stricter. And I think the bro crowd doesn't always understand that because they're like, they're going away from V8s, or now with the Tacoma, it's like, oh, since there's no V6, there's no way I'm buying that truck, and they will.
Yeah,
They're going to want
eventually.
that truck, but I think Toyota, the hybrid system, whether they're using it for torque, it's not really about fuel economy. Let's kill a couple cylinders to reduce the emissions and give you kind of that V6 power now with the hybrid system, and in the big truck, give you that V8 power.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think it's even more. Like it really does suck that car companies just can't do their own thing still, you know? And I do understand it, right, for longevity of the world. But it does it's crazy that the 4 cylinder to me in the Tacoma is like as good, if not better, than the V6 that it replaces. And I haven't even driven the hybrid yet. And that's kind of how the Tundra is for me, too. I mean, you get the hybrid if you want even more power. Like to me, the V6 in the Tundra is personally better than the 5.7. Now, reliability and sound and all that stuff, yeah, the
Yeah.
V8 has it right now. I get that. But like, just the amount of gearing that it has, minimal turbo lag, because even the 5.7 had like a dead electronic throttle like at some point too. So I think they're great powertrains, and I see it all the time in the comments like, dude, I finally cave, I drove one and it spanks my last truck. It's like, it's just because it's a numbers thing for people. This number's bigger, it's better. This number's smaller, I don't like it. So
Yeah. The one thing I was surprised with in the new Tacoma though is the power, the output for the basic setup right now. I would have thought they would have gotten a little closer to 300 horse. I know. 300 horsepower than they did. Any ideas why you don't think they kind of brought up to standard of the midsize trucks?
For the base engine, I really just feel like it was potentially a longevity thing. Because, I mean, even
Right.
with the manual, too, right? They nerf it just a little bit because I believe they bring the red line down just so if people miss a shift or something, it's not going to grenade the engine. And only like 54% of that engine is a carryover for other products and stuff from Toyota.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's a very truck focused engine with a lot of the other internals and stuff. But yeah, it would have been nice just for again numbers on paper. Yeah, it has 300 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque, right? Just to make them nice big whole numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much the exact same horsepower I think as the V6, and then the torque is definitely a bit higher, and it comes on just so early. I mean, the truck is so peppy.
Now, out of all the trims, because I know you got to go to the launch, which was kind of where do you think the value trim is in this?
That's hard.
Because they're
Because
all
they're,
expensive, to be
yeah,
honest.
they definitely jumped up in price. I mean, like base price, like for what you get compared to like the last generation, it's not insane for an 8-year-old vehicle to be that price, and now you have a brand new one that's really only like 2 to 3 thousand more. But where they really start to get you is the packages. So that I do
Hmm.
understand. Like that's where it just freaking leaps so far forward. Um, Man, I just have a thing for the TRD Off Road, and this year, I mean, compared to like a third gen TRD Off Road, like if you get it with the double cab and you get it with the 4-wheel drive, like all that's standard this year, and you get a good bit with it. I mean, you get the heavier duty axle shafts, bigger rear end and stuff. It's a fully boxed frame, but still, I mean, it's a $40,000 truck. It's a $44,000 truck. So I mean, I guess value would obviously have to be the volume seller, the SR5, with probably not that many options on it, probably around like 38 grand.
Yeah, I looked at the SR5. I think I did a build video on this, and I was amazed at yeah, it's pretty. I mean, obviously it's an SR5. It's not SR, but SR5 used to be to me. It's kind of a good middle ground build for Toyota. Now it seemed to be, I don't know, pushed to the lower end of it. But I was surprised that yeah, you can get a pretty good truck, but if you add one package to that thing, suddenly you're like, well, I might as well just move up into the bigger truck, and maybe that's what they're looking to get the customers to do.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and it's kind of like it's a price ladder really, and it's kind of like what Apple does, right? If you're know of the Apple ecosystem, or even I'm sure like Galaxy for Samsung stuff or whatever, but like you just have the entry level stuff, and then if you want a little bit more, it's at this price, and now next thing you know, you're looking at the Tundra as a 1794, and you're like, wait a minute, how was I just looking at a Tacoma SR5? And now I'm looking at a $70,000 truck, and it's going to be the same probably with the new 4Runner, right? Now that they have the Land Cruiser slotted in between the 4Runner and Sequoia, now that helps fill that price ladder. So 4Runners are going to be around $40,000. Land Cruisers are around a 55. The 4Runner TRD Pro may bleed over that, and then the Land Cruiser price is now in Sequoia. And now you're looking at an $80,000 Sequoia with how the price ladder goes.
Well, they seem to be following somewhat the GM structure because GM does that. They have a price. They seem to have like a $1,500 price point,
Mm.
and you can get the small one $1,500. You move to the next kind of small one. It just keeps moving up, and I feel like that's sort of a bad deal. I
Hmm.
mean, it's getting so the auto market in general is getting so confusing. If you want, if they want you to order a vehicle now, of course, with Toyota and Nissan, you really can't order what you want. You just kind of got to
Yeah,
get what they're
unfortunately.
allocated. But it's just getting so confusing because you get on Toyota's website with this, and like I said, I'm a journalist, you're a journalist, you do this, and you go through the website, and it can get really confusing really quick because I did a video where we were looking at the Limited versus the Limited Tundra, and I know it's not apples to apples, but as if you're just a basic non-car person, you're just like, oh, I'm kind of want to look at this, and you see the price at the Limited of the Tacoma is more expensive than the full size. It's very confusing, and I think it's muddying Toyota's own market.
Hmm. Yeah, especially with the names being the same, right? Like, why would I get a limited Tacoma if I could just get a limited Tundra? Where if you really just sit down, and I did a video as well. I was like, if you guys just sit down and build these, right? And it sucks to take time out of your day to do this. You'll realize, like, yes, it's a mid-sized truck. You get so many more standard features on a Tacoma Limited, where it's almost like evaluating it compared to like a Tundra Platinum, because you get like the automatic steps, the JBL sound system, you get a HUD, you get a moonroof, you get automatic or heated and cooled seats and all that stuff, an automatic tailgate, which like you don't get in the Tundra Limited, because the base price of the Limited, and standard four-wheel drive, because the base price of the Tundra Limited is just the smaller double cab, and in like a two-wheel drive, you don't get any of that stuff. So, I mean, it sucks. Like, yes, you get more value out of the Tacoma Limited, but at the same time, too, you're not forced to buy it, because if you don't want to buy it, you don't have to. But that's one thing I've noticed is a lot of force of packages. Like, if this is what you want, this is what the package has with Toyota, versus the other brand is like, yeah, we could tweak some things here and there for you, whereas Toyota is like, this is what you want, this is what it is. Like, if you don't want it, there's this model right here, kind of a thing, which does stink also for the consumer.
Do you think Toyota will do after the pandemic or during the pandemic? It showed really quickly that buyers would like to pick their own vehicles. And I know the Ford CEO has said this. He goes, we think it's a happier customer when they're able to order exactly what they want. Do you ever foresee Toyota going down that road of allowing customers to order what they want?
I don't, but I hope they do.
Right.
Just because it's kind of crazy for Ford and Chevy and all those, right? Because, reliability stuff. And you look at owners of cars, like long-term owners are Toyota owners for the most part, compared to like other brands. They tend to hold their vehicles longer. So it would be nice if Toyota was like, oh, you want to have this vehicle for years on end? Yeah, which one do you want? Which is kind of how the allocation system works. Like, if you have a good dealership that works with you, I mean, Toyota does have so few of packages, like going back to that, right? So like, if you want a vehicle, you could get pretty dang close to what you want. But it's just then the waiting game after that. But I don't know. I just kind of personally wish everything would just go to no dealer model, and like you pick the vehicle online and it just enters the queue of the assembly line, and then next thing you know, it's at your doorstep for whatever the market price is of the vehicle.
I've often said if you could on the web just click checkbox the options you want and the ones you don't leave blank, I think that would be the perfect setup. And I've worked in manufacturing, auto manufacturing. It's not that complicated to do it that way either, because we would have computer screens. It just, everything was in order. It just read out how you pull parts or what you're assembling on there. And it wouldn't be, I understand back in the day in the 50s, 60s, 70s, that would be a nightmare. Now I think it would simplify everything, and it would give the manufacturers more of an idea of what to order, because we would, with Nissan, when I worked for Nissan, we had just in time, parts. So everything was scheduled within by Friday. They reordered for Monday. And I think it would even simplify and maybe not so much carry over for what you need during the week. Like, you would know exactly. And the only hiccup would be, is I remember one time at Nissan, there was something with truck mirrors where something, the serial numbers on the parts didn't come in right, and we just started having to pull blanks, and just was like, okay, it says it's a black truck, find black mirrors. So that would be the only complication of that. But I really do think customers would be a happier experience, especially with Toyota, because for one, Toyota, I know it's probably the best product out there, especially in midsize trucks, but they have the worst dealer network. And I don't say that lightly, because you can just go on the forums, go on any of the social medias and hear about people. Yep, new Toyota's coming out, automatic Toyota pricing. And I've talked to Toyota about this, and they're like, obviously, they sell the product to a dealership, and the dealership's allowed to do what they want. But
Right.
Toyota, I think that's one of their downsides is they need to get more of a control on their dealerships a little bit, and let's stop screwing over the customers as much.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate thing of early supply and demand, right? If it's simple high school economics, but at the same time, it can get outrageous. And I see it all the times in my comments. Well, John, you sold your Sequoia for a profit. Yeah, I did, but like I wasn't gouging people,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference of realizing a shortage and also just gouge. I mean, I saw a SR5 Tacoma for $65,000. That is just stupid. But if it's in an area where it warrants $5,000, $6,000, maybe like at first, and companies, they need to buy the truck now to start doing stuff up, and it's a write-off for them, and they'll get their money back on the back end. Like, I understand that, and that's where these dealerships are at. But dude, they had like the last 2.5 years of doing this stuff, and I think they just need to pump the brakes a little bit. It's kind of crazy. And they are private, right? They're franchise owned and they're private dealers, but at the end of the day, I agree with you. They still wear the Toyota logo on the dealership. So Toyota should have some say in like just how much they go about it. But there are good dealers still.
That's
out
what
there.
you see too with the comments. Toyota's doing this, and you're like,
yeah,
Toyota's not doing this.
Yeah.
Trust me. And for like Ford had enough of it. So with the Bronco Raptors, they just jack the prices up. They're like, all right, if the dealers are going to get another $20,000 on top of these vehicles, why shouldn't we? And so they just jack the retail price up. And it scares me that Toyota, they set a market price, but it scares me down the road. They see, okay, dealers are consistently getting this. Why should they get this? We're putting in all the engineering and effort. We should get that. So I think that somewhat is why truck prices are so expensive right now. Over the pandemic, it happened. And trust me, these guys pay attention. They're not like, well, we set a price, forget it. We'll pay attention next year when we got to reprice these things.
Right. Which, hopefully is the ultimate path. I mean, it sucks to, get car salesmen out of a job, right? Which I don't want any American to lose a job. But it's just, it makes you think about that, like, well, then why are we doing this in the first place? Of why are we raising prices and making unhappy customers when we could just do a direct model and somehow make this car salesman, maybe pay him a good salary? We'll have like a test drive fleet and people can see if they even like it or something, right? But just eliminate that. I mean,
down that Tesla, it's kind of that Tesla model.
Yeah, like the Tesla model, but Tesla on the back end, they make thousands and thousands of jobs by making different factories and stuff. So I mean, it could be something else. It just does stink to, if you ultimately go that model, like there will be a lot of people out of a job, at least for a little bit. But I think ultimately that's where it will be, hopefully decades from now.
Well, I see comments like this all the time, and this is one of your viewers. It looks like hopefully Toyota will come back to reality where their price points. Unfortunately, I've never seen prices go down. Once they just don't go down. They might discount, they might do rebates at some point, but you're years from that ever happening. Are they even in the big trucks doing any kind of rebates right now?
Yeah, so the Tundra has some specials, and the weird thing with Toyota as well is like it's all region based too. Like in my region, there's killer, like I think it was 2.9 or 3.9% APR, which still isn't amazing, but it's better than the 8-9% that we've seen. But you have to finance it for 3 years. And there's not that many people that can finance, a $70,000 truck for 3 years unless you put a very healthy down payment down. But then, out in the West Coast, it could be upwards of 6 years at 5.99%. So it's not like a blanket, and I'm not sure how other companies are, but it's not a blanket across the whole United States.
Yeah.
It's region specific as well, and then also area specific. I've seen Tundras like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 off MSRP right now too. But again, the rates are high, so it kind of like evens itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. This comment here kind of struck me. Their prices are luxury brand, which they're not a luxury brand. Kind of they are. If you think about it, you talk about quality. That's part of luxury. You do expect a nice built vehicle. And I've seen firsthand, I hate to go back to Nissan, but I've seen what they do from Nissan brand to Infinity, and from inside the plants, they really do. It's a completely, it might go down the same line, but the assembly of each part is completely at a higher standard. But I do look at at Toyota, it's kind of a mid-tier luxury brand. I know they have Lexus, but I if I want just a basic pickup truck, I'll probably look at the little Nissan Frontier. If I want maybe a few more nicer options, I might look at the GMC stuff there. But if I want a truck that I know I'm not going to have any problems with, I look at the Toyota.
Yeah, and it does stink, like with all these new trucks coming out, like that have issues. I mean, I've documented plenty of issues I've had with my Tundra, and it's a growing pain, unfortunately, because you had the same model for 14 years and now it's all of a sudden a new truck. So, but I do agree with more of like mid tier, right? Like Toyota isn't the best selling pickup truck like Ford F-150, right? It's not selling fleet volume stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how GMC is to Chevy. I feel like it's more of just like if you want that a little bit more quality of truck, not that many people are gonna buy it compared to like a baseline Silverado. I feel is like their market for trucks at least. Volume sellers and stuff of to get that mindset off a luxury brand. I mean, look at their Corolla, Camry, the RAV4, like all that stuff is super cheap and volume selling. I think it's more luxury kind of in your eyes focused on these prices when you start getting into their bigger vehicles, because Toyota still has, $20,000 cars.
Yes, they do actually know how to build Corolla is still fairly affordable if I
I
remember last
think
time I
even
looked.
I think that starts at like 18 or 19 still. I don't even, it may start at 20 now just because of inflation, but I think that was under 20 for a long time.
Yeah, I was surprised. Auto News posted up, and I'm sure you track what they do, but they had posted up truck sales. Let me find it real quick because here it is. I was amazed that I know Toyota with the Tacoma, they sell a ton of it, but I was
Hmm.
amazed when you start looking though at the numbers that for other brands. So where is it right here? So F-150 obviously still, and I know this is big trucks, still the king of the jungle. And if GM would ever be so smart to put the two brands together, they might rule that jungle. But
Hmm.
I didn't realize this is the one that struck me weird was because GM Sierra, I don't think of it as a high volume vehicle for GM, but it
Hmm.
still outsells the Tacoma, which struck me weird. I didn't
Does it
realize. I
really?
know
Wow, I didn't even know that.
yeah, I didn't realize last year Toyota sold 234,768 Tacomas,
Hmm.
which was a pretty good year for Toyota. I know they're always over 200,000, but I didn't realize it struck me crazy that the GM Sierra actually outsold it.
That's wild.
So it shows there's a lot of room to in the little trucks kind of crank that volume up, and I do think that's why the big move to Mexico to build the Tacoma was obviously they needed more ways to build volume when you're building like was it 2 or 3 vehicles at the Texas plant? Was it Sequoia 2 when they were
Yeah,
building?
towards the tail end, I believe it was Sequoia 2 and Tundra, and unless the second gen Sequoia was in Indiana, or I think the second gen Sequoia was in Indiana for a while.
Okay. But I know they wanted some volume for big truck, and of course, obviously, a little cheaper labor in Mexico there
Hmm.
for this truck, and I think that struck some people too. I've seen it in the comments where people are like, "Hey, they moved the vehicle down to Mexico," and the labor that I've seen from all the brands who have plants down there, generally, if you look at the plant statistics, they're usually quality's better in Mexico than it is in the United States. So
Yeah.
there, you should have nothing to worry about with that down there. But labor is a little cheaper as well,
Hmm.
and I think that has struck some people with the new truck of the price increases, the kind of shell shock of that, and then you start thinking, man, they're building this where labor's probably half price.
Yeah.
What's how can you save Toyota from that? Can you for if you were their PR team, how do you spin that one and go, oh no, it's better quality vehicle?
Man, this is probably why I'm not hired.
Sorry, John.
It no, you're fine. I mean, I'll say it this way. There's a lot that goes into it just being a new truck, right?
Yes.
The whole R&D, having your engineering team, flying different locations, flying these vehicles to other areas, driving them for years on end, having a motor running at tilt at full speed for weeks or however long they do it. So I mean, there has to be some sort of your like for we do real estate, right? So our like cash on cash return. So if we go and rehab a house, how long is it going to take us to get that money back of like the 40 grand we put into it. So I think maybe that is a move with them to get their return based on all this R&D for the truck, and also keep it relatively lower of an MSRP bump than, saying like, well, we want all of our money back in the first year. This is the new
Yeah.
price of the Tacoma. It's a $50,000 truck for an SR. And you're like, what? That makes no sense. But maybe it's just all the R&D. And at the end of the day, they're a company. They got to make money to stay alive to keep making vehicles. And I think Toyota's what, the third or fourth richest company in the world or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
they're not hurting.
yeah, so yeah, they're definitely not. So I mean, they could give a little slack back to us, the customers. But I mean, that would be my educated response. One, they're a company; they want to make profit. They're not going to fall. And two, I mean, just of all the years of R&D into this truck, like they have to get somewhat of a cash on cash back return.
I know a few years ago because this truck is a pretty all new platform, right? I know it's based upon the Tundra, but it's still it's a pretty new framing and everything, right? It's pretty
Yep.
new. I
Yeah.
know it was $1 billion a couple years ago just to develop a new vehicle, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably $1.25 billion now to develop it. And I don't think people realize that that's before, that's just getting the engineering, getting the truck to the line. That's
Mhm.
not including building it, all your labor costs for that. So yeah, I mean, people need to understand with truck prices. Yeah, I know they're expensive, and I know a couple years ago you would have went, oh, mid 20s, I can get a truck, but unfortunately, and with the way the world is right now, and I don't care about politics, it's just it's a natural progression, and I think we all got that free money from the pandemic, and it's like it was easy to spend, and now you're like, oh crap, I got to pay for that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely sucks because I mean, natural inflation is a thing,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and we may see like politics aside, we may see somewhat of a little reset in the future, right? Like if
Mhm.
things kind of shift because people are tired of things, but like really, I mean, my grandma and grandpa, they bought a house in San Diego back in the 60s, right, for like $15,000. Like, do you
Wow.
think that's a thing anymore? Like, that's not a thing anymore that you can do. So it's kind of like the same mental thought as trucks. Like, I mean, what was a Toyota pickup in the 80s? It was a $6,000 truck or something like that. Now those are $10,000 on the used market for a clean one, $20,000. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I mean, um, but at the rate that stuff has gone, especially when people compare like this 2024 Tacoma to like a 2020 or a 2021, like the jump that we had from like 22, 23 into 24 has just been exponential to where I think it's really opening up people's eyes to like, holy crap, like that was a big jump just in the last couple years alone, which
Yeah.
is, the typical life cycle of people's cars is 3 to 4 years. So now they bought their car 3 to 4 years ago, and now they're looking at a new one. They're like, "Holy crap, what the heck happened?"
Yeah. Yeah. If you within the past 5 years want to buy another car today, yeah,
Yeah.
you might really be shell shocked. And I am I'm excited though for this truck. I'm excited. They should be are they hitting dealer slots yet? I know you've got one you've been waiting on.
they they were supposed to be here in December.
Right.
So I have no idea what's going on. And there was only going to be like a couple in December and stuff. But yeah, my build date was supposed to be the 4th, and the status has not changed yet. So I don't know. I'm just
So you assume it's built, just waiting to be delivered?
I hope next thing I know it's like, oh, John, we forgot to update it. Can you fly to Virginia tomorrow? Yes. like
Yes, I
that's
can. Yes, I can.
yeah, that's what I'm hoping. But I have a gut feeling that it's just delayed. Like because Toyota, like they like to make sure that the trucks are complete, and I
Mhm.
don't know why, but there is still some part shortage stuff affecting the automotive industry. But Toyota wants to make sure that the trucks are completely built. There's no blank panels. You're supposed to have heated seats. Hey, sorry, here's a blank panel. Here's your truck, like other brands did. So I mean, Toyota wants to have a complete truck to give to you, and I just have a bad feeling that there's something going on, like some part is missing or something didn't go past the quality control check that they wanted to with a batch of trucks. Maybe I don't know.
I know Ford was like that. We bought a Mustang a couple months ago, and they would not release them till the plants had to meet a certain quality, so
Oh,
many
nice.
days of without issues,
Hmm.
and then they finally would release them. But yeah, my Mustang sat for almost 2 months
Oh
before
my
they
God, don't
they
say
shipped them
that.
out. And the worst thing
Jeez.
was I have friends in Michigan where these cars were built. They could get pictures and video of like where these cars, they constantly moved them around everywhere because they were running out of room to store them. But
Hmm.
yeah, but any new vehicles, it's always worth the wait. And I know some people I've seen in the comments were like, well, I'm moving the Chevrolet now because I'm tired of waiting. And you're like,
Right.
look, man, there's no, even if you put a deposit down, they have no obligations to meet your deadline. They have
Right.
their own deadlines to meet.
Yeah, I mean it, and like Tim, like I know that Tim said he's just going to be waiting for the hybrid now, right?
Mhm.
And at this point, like now in my brain, I'm kind of thinking that where I mean, I'm like, well, it's mid-January now, and it's going to take a couple weeks for the truck to get from Mexico. Now we're in February, and I got some
Yeah.
stuff happening in February, and then it's March, and then next thing you know, it's April. But like, will those trucks actually be out in April, or will it be the same stuff all over again? Will it be May, June timeframe for those as well for the hybrids? So
Well,
yeah, it's
you were talking about part shortages. I do
mhm,
remember. So me and Tim, we were at the in Texas and got to see the what's the Trail Hunter or whatever they call it,
mhm,
and it was missing parts. And this was a
mhm,
truck they brought for us to video to walk around and do. So like literally, they didn't even have enough parts to put the vehicle completely together because they needed to start getting PR moving on it. Yeah, it's the parts thing is real. People don't seem to understand that we're playing catch up still. I know
yeah,
24, they're expecting 24 should be back to normal across the
mhm,
industry, but that doesn't mean we're there yet.
yeah, which is so crazy. I mean, and even shopping on like Amazon and stuff. I mean, granted, I'm not in the biggest area, but you know, it's still 3 4 day prime shipping, and you're like, where'd my 2 day go? Like, why is it not here anymore? You
Yep.
know?
Don't get me started on Amazon. You pay
Yeah.
for their 2 day shipping and suddenly it's, you'll see it in 3 weeks. You're like, what?
Right. Or do you want to save like and get 6% cash back on your Amazon card if you bundle this all together and get it
Yes.
in 1 week? It's like just say you can't get it to me like in 2 days.
Right. Right. But Amazon, that's kind of a funny segue. Amazon is why I think the people are so impatient now with the car purchases. They're just
Yeah.
so used to, I can order it. I sit at my desk, I order it, and it's here tomorrow or the next day. Why hasn't my car done that?
Right. Which is why I think the Carvana and the Vroom and all those other ones did so well at first is just
Hmm.
because it was, hey, this is the price, this is what it is, click it, and it'll show up in your driveway. If you don't like it, Amazon return it and shop for another one, you know? They
Yeah.
just went kind of crazy during when everything shut down. They just really, I feel like, overbought or whatever, and then stuff really pumped its brakes fast. But yeah, I mean, that concept was so smart. I mean,
Yes.
my
And
gosh.
perfectly, the timing of it was perfect. I know it was 5 6 years before the pandemic, but it just allowed them to ramp up and just be like, oh, we're here. The
Right.
one brand I'm surprised that didn't the pandemic help them was Nissan. They had a fleet full of Titans they can't get rid of. They
Hmm.
had them there. People could, hey, they should have done commercials. Hey, come try us. We have the trucks. Come try us. No, like typical Nissan fashion, they screwed that up as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I see it in the comments all the time now too. It's like you just said, I'm gonna go to this brand, I'm gonna go to that brand, and I'm not like I enjoy Toyota, right? But I'm not gonna tell you like, oh, well, you're buying a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Like, cool, go enjoy the Colorado. Let me know how it is. Like, if you still watch the videos and stuff, and you chime in every once in a while and be like, hey, my Colorado's doing great, blah blah blah. Cool, dude. Glad you're like enjoying it. You know.
Yep.
I don't care. I mean, eventually I want to have different vehicles on either this channel or another channel, but like it's just I don't know. Like, okay, it's your money. I'm not controlling you. Go buy your Titan or Frontier. Buy whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% on that. Speaking of, when you were looking to order your vehicles, so I know did you go to Hawaii for the reveal?
For the Tacoma, yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you lucky SOB because I'm so not in the Toyota group. I know people that I'm like, how did they get invited to this thing? They have like 100 followers, but
Yeah.
I didn't get that
Yeah, that is
Toyota.
crazy at some Toyota events where you're like, what outlet are you? And
Yeah,
you know, I'm
well
I'm super thankful, but yeah.
I'm with TikTok, and you're like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, right. Oh God, there's so many of
I
TikTokers
know
now. It's
that's
crazy.
kind of ruining our industry a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you don't do a freaking 30-second video and shove everything in it, I forget it. But that's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation. But
Right.
I mean, for one, the trip, I know they did the reveal, the last generation, they did the reveal in Hawaii. So it was kind of fun that they kind of did that again. How geeked out were you to get that invite to, hey, for one, you're going to Hawaii. So that's just in
Mhm.
itself is fun, but to get to see something that's been anticipated for that long.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. It was very cool, and it kind of helped me with preparation for like the Land Cruiser too. When
Hmm.
I got that announcement, I was like, okay, well, I know I missed some content on the Tacoma because it was just very overwhelming. I mean, we only had maybe 10 minutes to 15 minutes with each vehicle, and there were four Tacomas there, so we had like an hour slot. So you had like 15 minutes with one, 15 minutes with the other, and just so on, right? So you had to get like a lot of information
Yeah,
in.
what the Pro, you weren't even allowed to video the back of it because it wasn't done. And
Yeah, it was all pre-production. I mean, if you were, a bigger agency and stuff, you had your special time with it and everything.
yeah,
So like that's like the next goal in my mind is to show the interactions and impressions and views that my uh, review videos get to like get that extra time and stuff. But anyways, it I was so pumped on it. I was like, I'm just excited to see the truck and the fact like that it's in Hawaii. Like that is just so cool. I mean, I could do it in Texas. I could do it wherever
yeah,
Toyota wants. Like I just want to get this vehicle as good as I can in front of my audience. And like I wish I could be a little bit more like, hey guys, I'm going to Hawaii to see the Tacoma. What do you guys want to see about it? Like you can't do that.
yeah.
But it's just I like my audience because we're very interactive still because I'm just a one man show. So
Mhm.
I can see what they want to see instead of just kind of doing a blanket for like a bigger audience. But it was wild. It was so cool. Just the views were incredible and everything. I'm not gonna rub it in, but it was really really
It's okay.
it was a really really cool experience and definitely like a highlight of my YouTube by far. And
Was
then we went to Arizona afterwards for the Overland Expo and just
yeah.
everyone just seeing it was just so enamored by it.
Was it what you expected though? Did you expect a kind of downsized Tundra? I know they've given it some special, unique kind of Tacoma design, still like the grill, and they changed the
Hmm.
light slightly. But did you kind of expect that it would be more of a miniature version? And I hate to say that, but sitting inside these things, it definitely feels at home. If you've been in the big truck, this definitely
Hmm.
feels reminiscent of that. How
Yeah.
how was it? How was your impressions when you saw it?
Yeah, so it's exactly like that, and for a good reason too. I mean, because I literally could feel myself like because I have a current Tundra. I could literally feel myself when I like went to sit in that Tacoma and I sat inside of it. I was like, wow, this feels nice. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
feel like I'm laying on the floor. It doesn't feel like my legs are all out. Like, oh, I have a huge 14-inch screen right here. The steering
Yeah.
wheel is the exact same as the Tundra. So I mean, like it's this whole Toyota ecosystem that they're moving forward to with their new steering wheels and their infotainment screen and stuff. So everything feels natural. But yeah, it literally felt like a mini Tundra, but better because after I drove it in California, I was like, there's some things that I wish my Tundra had that this truck has, or the way that this truck acts. I wish my truck was like that. Like it drives to me. I mean, it's a midsize truck. It's not going to do full size truck stuff, but it to me drives better than the Tundra does. Like that engine gets it up going better than the Tundra does. The 8 speed feels just as buttery as the 10 speed, and then everything inside it just feels like a nice truck. Like the steering wheel feels good, the electronic power steering, which is new as well. Like it just felt so good. I don't know, not to
Yeah.
fanboy over it, but I mean it's literally like a mini Tundra, like you said, but like just better in certain ways.
I what I assume is they bring the Tundra out and they listen to feedback and then they adjust feedback. They know obviously the Tacoma is going to be their popular truck out of the
Oh yeah.
two, and then they adjust that feedback to make the little truck even better. It's kind of
Hmm.
that's what I presume they've done.
And to one up as well, right? Because I mean,
Hmm.
it's their volume seller. They're not selling 240,000 Tundras a year, So I
Yeah.
mean, and it's the number one in the midsize segment, unless Chevy passed them in this off year or whatever. I can't remember.
No, not even close.
Not even close. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so they also had, listen to feedback, but also we have a reputation to hold at the same time, because if they gave that Tacoma and it came out with no tow hooks, I mean, that right there is the first nail in the coffin. So I mean, like
Yes.
there's certain things that they're like, we cannot F this up on the Tacoma. Certain things that may have been overlooked by Tundra, or where Tundra was just like, our audience isn't full size truck owners. Like it's just Toyota owners that need a full size truck kind of a thing.
I got to be honest. So tow hooks on full size trucks are so overrated to me.
Dude,
I've
100%.
off roaded big trucks and I've done small trucks. And I will get a small truck in places that I can't do the big truck where you might need tow hooks in front. On the big trucks and especially for Toyota because they're not doing heavy duty trucks, so they're not taking these things logging or whatever. Somebody
Right.
may, but the idea behind that truck is more of a light duty vehicle than what these heavy duties that Ford and Chevrolet do. So I think it was overrated, and I think people need to calm down on that. But you're right. If they did not put tow hooks on the little
Yeah.
truck, game over.
Yeah.
You would see people in Texas at HQ just like with pitchforks.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I 100% agree with you because those that then buy the Tundra and build it into an overland rig or an off-road rig, they're putting a new front bumper on it anyways. And I feel like that was Toyota's thing for that. Was like, but it's so simple just to give us two little nubs like right there up front, right? Just to have for people like in the off chance that, you know, I see it all the time here, like well, okay, I'll just say my experience. My truck got towed from a tow company because I parked in a no parking zone. Whatever, there were hundreds of other cars there.
Breaking news.
I know, right? A big lifted Tundra just so happened to get chosen. So I asked the guys, I was like, hey, whatever, I parked there. I'm not pissed, but like, how'd you pull my truck up onto your freaking tow truck? And they're like, oh, well, we had to wrap it around the axle. So like certain things like for that would be nice to have some sort of a recovery mount on a frame for that, or if you get stuck in sand out at the beach or something, like just to have something would be nice for that off chance. But yeah, I was beyond pissed that day to care about tow hooks, but I was just curious.
Where are you at with the little truck lineup? Because they've really, you know, they with the Trail Hunter, and I keep screwing that name. I for some reason when I did a walk around, I called it a Trail Master. But like you said, you get like 15 minutes with a vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't think people watching these videos sometimes understand the pressure of like, I know kind of what people want. You know, I'm trying to guess. I'm trying to think on the run, and yeah. So my audience just tore me up for that, as they should, because that was, you know, just dummy. But I was surprised at that model. I think because Toyota, they're much like Jeep. They know their audience is going to do what they want with the vehicle, especially aftermarket. If you're building an off-road version of it, they're like, you know, Jeep forever wouldn't put a V8 in the Wrangler because they're like, nah, we don't have to. Then Bronco comes around, they're like, oh.
Yeah,
we better surprise our audience. And I think with Toyota, the partnership with ARB was a little bit surprising. Not that they haven't worked together before, but that they went to the extent that they did to like, okay, we'll do aftermarket bumpers. We'll do the sport cage in the back of this thing. We know, overland guy, we're going to put all these plugs in the back of this truck so you can do it. The air. I love the fact that they put an air compressor in the truck. Game changer. I know it, as silly as that sounds, I have an air compressor sitting in my office here that I've had for almost 2 years now because I'm stupid, lazy, and I just don't want to put it in there. Every time I think of it, it's cold. So I'm like, I'm not going outside today. But I like the fact that they finally kind of paying attention and going, okay, we can get into this aftermarket a little bit with this truck. Where are you at with that one?
Yeah, I like the Trail Hunter specifically, or just all
that
their
model.
lineup. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Just one, the interior just looks so cool with like the boulder on the dash and everything, and the seats with the yellow piping. Like the interior looks sick on that truck. But they added so much to it. Like the integrated snorkel is cool. Some dudes were down in Central Florida off-roading it, like with a Toyota, and the turbo whistle and the kind of blow off that you hear from that snorkel is just so sick. The rigid fog lights in the front, where you know, I mean, it's not revolutionary. It's just cool to see this in an OEM vehicle. How they go from white to yellow and stuff. The wheels, I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're cool. Just because they're bronze. I just don't like the look of them. But I mean, it's so good. All the aux switches on the inside, and then since it's a hybrid only, I mean, to have a 2400 watt inverter in the back, right? If you have a whole camping setup back there and you need electronics because you don't have like a Jackery system or Goal Zero or something like that, it's just so cool. Like they really thought a lot out on this truck, and then not only that, but just everything with this, like Toyota made it a point to say that you could take everything from that Trail Hunter in front and put it onto that TRD Off Road in the back. So
Yeah.
like obviously it's going to cost money through Toyota to order that stuff and do that, but you can totally build up a TRD Off Road the same way you could a Trail Hunter.
Well, there was things on it. So at first I thought, well, the Trail Hunter is probably a gimmick. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you see it in auto manufacturing, they throw a couple parts on, people are like, oh my God, look how off-roady it is. But this
Right.
truck is very well thought out. Even how they routed the exhaust. I don't know if you've been under this truck, the way
Mm-hmm.
it dumps right by the axle there instead of, because they
Mm-hmm.
know, hey, we don't want to drag the exhaust in rocky conditions like what this photo here is. You're definitely going to drag it up. And if you look at the off-road version here, look where the exhaust is. It's
Yeah,
sticking out, it's
it's so
vulnerable.
low. Yeah.
So I was surprised getting under the truck of, man, they really did. They built an off-road beast. It's hard to say that. I know people would love a front locker in this thing, which I still don't buy Toyota's explanation of why they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I electronics sometimes fail, even lockers can fail, but the idea that they're like, well, we think our programming for our crawl controls is that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still kind of a, I hate to say, a dude sport, and dudes like buttons. They want to push.
Yeah.
They want to know, hey, I pushed this, I made it do this. Not
Right.
there was some magical elf inside the,
Right.
computer system going, oh, let's make this work. But under this truck, man, I love the fact that the link suspension that they put under it. The little things they've thought about. Obviously, the interior of this truck, I'm a little iffy on the color, the
Mm-hmm.
interior color that I've seen it in, because that kind of weirdish greenish hue.
Yeah.
It fits this particular color, but I'm curious what other options they're going to have for it.
Yeah,
But
it'll
you're
be
right. I
interesting
heard,
to see how it looks like on a white truck on the
yes,
outside or like a silver
yes.
one or something. Yeah,
It,
I agree.
I feel like it's going to date the vehicle really quickly, is what I
Yeah.
feel like it's going to do. But you're right. When I heard this thing start up, you're like, oh crap, that is kind of cool. You hear the snorkel like really pulling air. And it's
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes you do these aftermarket snorkels, and it wasn't designed to do that. So it was nice that Toyota from day one was like, let's design this, let's give them the ultimate version. We know people are still going to modify it, because I think the tires they put under that thing are the worst tires ever. But Toyota knows. I've talked to Toyota engineers about this. They're like, we really take our first 6 months reliability stuff, what people are complaining about, when they fill out the losing my words, the stats,
Those
when
little,
they're
yeah,
like,
those little
yeah,
questionnaire things
yeah,
that
the little
they send
questionnaires,
out. Yeah.
they know if they put the tire that needs to be under this truck, people would complain about it. Oh, it's too loud, it rides
Mm-hmm.
too rough. So they give you something that looks off-road, but I think it's okay. But the little rock sliders they're putting under this thing, everything about this truck, I was so surprised when I got to see it in Texas of like, man, they really did it.
Yeah, they went as far as they could, I feel, to blend the person being satisfied that's going to buy this truck and it'll never touch dirt
Mhm.
to the individual that will buy this truck as a pretty decent platform to where they don't need to buy, suspension aftermarket and get that installed by someone, or a recovery high clearance like rear bumper, like a steel bumper, right? And I mean, I still get comments where like, well, why didn't they put a front bumper on? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Well, a lot of it, the truck still has to pass DOT standards. And I don't really think, aside from those AEV vehicles, unless they have like some sort of waiver or something, those are really the only trucks that I've seen with integrated front bumpers from the factory, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't, they went as far as they could on this truck to give you everything to still allow you to make it your own if you want. But like, I mean, to me, it's like, for an overland rig, I mean, depending on how crazy you want to go, I mean, this thing is like 75% done, right?
Yeah.
All the other stuff is like whatever choices you want for the truck, I feel.
When then you get on their website now and you'll be able to order rooftop tents, stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
if you
all
want to
that.
buy this thing and literally leave the dealership and go on your first adventure, you can pretty much do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and that's the whole point of this truck too, is for those that are a little bit well off and they can afford all that and finance all that, and they don't want to not waste the time but source all the parts themselves, go to all these other third party shops, get it all on the truck. Like they just want it all done from Toyota, And then those of us that, you know, are a little bit more passionate about building our own vehicles, that's when you get the TRD Off Road and then just build it up into that, you know. So
Yeah.
they're just
Well,
given options.
so between that and I've seen the pro. I was at the Texas State Fair and they had the pro. They had a few pros sitting there, but I didn't really spend a lot of time getting to check it out because they had the limited edition. What was it? The 1794, whatever the really cool limited edition truck they were building. I was more focused on that, but getting to see the pro in person too was really nice. But the worst thing out of all this is, what do you think the pricing on these two trucks are going to be? Because I was looking,
if you didn't ask it, I was going to ask you.
well, and I want in the comments, guys, where do you guys think this is going to be? Because I'm very curious what the audience thinks. I'm a little scared because I started comparing where the Tundra, you know, because we were talking earlier about the limiteds being kind of in the same ballpark. I'm a little scared that we're going to see our first $70,000 midsize truck
for the Trail Hunter, I think, or at least close to it. I'm really hoping that this Pro is at like 63 to 64, like just on the door of 65. I mean, which
do you
is
think it'll be
crazy?
It'll be cheaper. You don't think they'll crank the Pro up as their? I mean, obviously there's more parts, I guess, on the Trail Hunter, but
I think that it's unpopular to say this is not Toyota PR, but I think that the Trail Hunter is going to have an overland tax on it. You know, I mean, if you just see the whole overland scene, like everything is just, why does it cost that much? It is a simple little tool. I don't need it to cost. Yeah, well, it's branded overland. I don't care. It's the same tool that you could get somewhere else, right? Not that this truck is the same truck you could get somewhere else. I mean, you could build your own truck to that. But I really feel like the Trail Hunter will potentially just be that halo truck just because it has a little bit more going on. But like this Pro, it has to be somewhat competitive with the Ranger Raptor. Even though this has a lot more standard features. Again, that's Toyota putting standard features in a vehicle and making you pay for it. Because like this has the moonroof, it has an electronic tailgate, it has a lot more luxury features than the Ranger Raptor does. But the Ranger Raptor is still what, like 61, 62, I think.
Mine's 58.
58?
And there wasn't many options I had to put on it.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I was thinking it was like in the 60s, and then I built one day.
The new AT4X AEV, whatever, that's going to be in that price range. And I think what Chevrolet's Bison for the Colorado is definitely late 60s.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
but that's with 35-inch tires, and each brand seems to focus on one little part of that people want.
Right.
So
yeah, that is true. I mean, like, hey, what makes this a standout for you to buy a Tacoma versus the other ones? Well, for me, it's the iForce powertrain in this with like the 465 pound-feet of torque and the aftermarket scene. Like, I know that the aftermarket scene is going to be way more inclined to build stuff for Tacomas than they are the other brands. Even though the midsize truck market is huge, it's crazy. Like, there will be stuff for every single model, but Toyota is going to have some of the best and some of the earliest aftermarket support out there. So,
well, if you consider they're selling over 200,000 a year, and the other brands are 100,000, there's going to be double the support for this truck than anything else.
Right, and even the audience too, because a lot of those 200,000, like they do some sort of off-roading with their Tacoma, or it's their weekend fun vehicle with the family or something like that. You know, I mean, it's a lot more than just the individuals buying the truck just to have the truck.
Well, I know the torque, and obviously torque and off-road and stuff is pretty key feature, but I was surprised though that they still didn't get close to the horsepower that these other trucks are doing. Well, I guess the other trucks, when I say that the Raptor, because this truck is aimed at the Raptor crowd 100%. The last generation, the one you had, which I thought was a beautiful truck, not so much. I mean, you were getting everything, a lot of cool stuff about it. I love the stamping they did in the bed and stuff to make it unique. But past that, I never found it to be, like, in my opinion, the ultimate off-road truck. Now you could make it that once again, but I think now we're getting into these hyper competitive markets of, we want to offer you the most off-road truck you can get. And of course, Raptor has some heritage where I think a little more heritage than maybe TRD Pro has. We know what the F-150s are. You know, we've seen enough videos of these kids jumping them, breaking them in half, but just doing all the fun stuff you want to do with a kind of a desert running truck.
Hmm.
And this one here is yet to be seen. And I'm a little worried that what's the output of this one? 320s,
I
330s?
think that the iForce is 326 or 346. I can't remember. iForce
Yeah.
Max Tacoma.
I know it's a strange number, but I'm surprised though
I
that
know
they
it's
didn't crank.
465 for the torque, and it comes on
Mhm.
at like 1700 RPM, which is just stupid low. It's 326 horsepower and
Okay.
465 foot-pounds of torque.
So I mean, they're only 16 horsepower more than what the Nissan Frontier or the new Chevrolet Colorado's doing.
Hmm.
Which I would have thought if you're going to take on Raptor. Clearly, the truck's probably just as capable off road. I mean, it looks like in the
Hmm.
photos, anyways, like they're just beating the piss out of it. But it's a very dude thing. They want to see numbers. Obviously,
Oh,
the
100%.
torque numbers of this thing
Yeah.
are through the roof, but they're going to see that horsepower and be like, if I'm price shopping, which I have to for what we do,
Hmm.
I will say I was a little disappointed when this truck came out and I saw those numbers.
Yeah, and for me, and Tim actually kind of opened my eyes to this a little bit more, but you have to be, open-minded about it. Whereas like heavier vehicles like this, like when the Land Cruiser came out, um, it was like, dude, they got rid of the V8 for a four-cylinder. It's like, yeah, but it has, way more torque than the outgoing model. So like it'll get the heavy vehicle up and going a lot better than those older engines, right? But
Mhm.
like you said, 100%, people are going to be like, well, these are the numbers. It's like, okay, but okay, let's put these trucks side by side, see which one drives better, see which one acts better. You know, you said, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. And I think that this one, and I agree with what you said earlier for the last generation TRD Pros, because to me, the last gen TRD Pros is like, what the TRD Off Road is for this generation, like with the
Mhm.
piggyback reservoir suspension. And even I feel like this new TRD Off Road may be a little bit better. Maybe not in the shocks department, but like everything else, I feel like it's even better than the last gen Pro. This one, though, I mean, they have the hydraulic bump stops on it, the QS3 shocks, which for the price that this is going to be, I would rather have seen adaptive, like electronic shocks on this
Yeah.
truck, like a lot of the other competition. And then, Toyota has to throw their gimmick in there of the isodynamic seats. So those will be cool, for those that may want them, but to so many others, it's like the back seat space is already atrocious in a
Yeah.
mid-sized truck. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want these. I still want to have my family in the back. So I'm really, really hoping that that's an option.
I was going to ask
It,
you, do you think those have to be an option, right?
So at launch, it didn't make it seem like it, but I really hope with the feedback that Toyota has seen with it, because I mean, people even say it in like Toyota USA's Instagram post, like, "Hey, I don't want these seats on the truck." So I mean,
Yeah.
people are making it known that like they want those seats at least as an option, because you lose a lot of space in the back,
Yes.
like with
Yes. I don't
those.
I don't know how a full size person would get back there with those seats.
Oh, you would have
I
to
really
like
don't.
have the seat all the way forward and then get in and like just slide to the middle, and then the other person could put the seats back. I mean, there is not
How are those
much.
crash rated? Because
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of metal parts that maybe they cover that up. Maybe it was just exposed so you could see it, how
Hmm.
cool it was. But I can only imagine like running your knees in a fender bender, somebody running their knees in those seats
Yeah.
seems like a very painful thing.
Yeah.
Question here is, can you even find a Ranger Raptor dealer markups 10K or what? I know mine's at retail is what I paid for mine, and I've seen plenty of them out there where I've
Hmm.
seen dealers still have allocations for those, trying to hey, you want one? We're not marking them up. Once again, like we talked about with the Toyota dealerships, there's bad Ford dealerships, there's bad GM dealerships,
Yeah.
and I say bad, they're just doing what makes sense for their business. But you just have to shop, and I think we live in a our you're traveling to get your Toyota. I'm traveling to
Hmm.
get my Ranger.
Hmm.
Like if you're willing to travel a little bit, and I'll be honest, that's some of the most fun I've had of buying a new vehicle
Oh,
is traveling
100%.
somewhere, flying in. It's
Yeah.
exciting. You pick the vehicle up, and the most I've learned was this Mustang we bought was because I drove it back from Detroit all the way to Nashville. I learned so much by being behind the seats for the 9 hours that it took to get back there, more than I would have had I got a press loan
Hmm.
and got to be excited and go get in it and drive it for an hour. So much more. You learn how all that chrome is blaring in my eyes, or just little things that as a journalist
Right.
that you wouldn't learn before. But I think these trucks are going to be, don't kid yourself. This truck here, the Pro, you're talking, I bet 20K. I bet when
Oh,
a dealer gets a
especially
hold
at
of it, almost
first. Yeah.
100K.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially at first, and don't even get me started on California. Because I mean, this is that truck's sweet spot is
Yep.
desert running and all that stuff. You're gonna have the West Coast tax on top of that too. I mean, at first, but still, there will be those good dealerships day one that are MSRP for the truck, right? Because that's just what their dealerships are. So you got to search around, and that's what I say all the time. There's a Facebook page, No Markup Toyota. So I mean, I see TRD Pros in there all the time at MSRP. I saw the one the other day at $500 under MSRP. So I mean, they're out there. It's just you definitely got to research. And if you're not like, I need the truck right now, well then you're gonna pay the right now price, right? But if you want to take a breather and go find a truck and do a road trip. I highly recommend road trips. One, it like puts you in an uncomfortable situation in a new area, and you meet new people and stuff. And I've never been to this dealership in Virginia, but it just so happened to work out, and I'm gonna fly into a tiny little airport and meet people. And now people in that area, if the dealership treats me right and like the price is right, I'm like, hey guys, this is a dealership you guys can use if you're in this area. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that unless I just did it.
Right. Yeah. No, I of course, for what we do, you got to build relationships with some of these people, but some of these dealers want that relationship because they want us to talk about their dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And that it would be easy for them to $5,000 of overcharges, but guess what? They may get $100,000 in sales because of it. And I know that sounds, I'm a smaller channel. I know you're nearing 100,000. That may sound crazy, but guess what? These videos never go away.
Right. Yeah.
It's
on
great
the internet.
advertising for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But word of mouth is great advertising for them too. And if you're in your local town and your dealership is just, that's how they operate, travel, man, fly around, call around. It's the one that kills me is in these Facebook groups of where, does anybody know? I know you can ask the question, but guess what? Start using your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Start calling some dealerships. Like, put the work in. If you really want one of these vehicles, put the work in. It's worth it. I don't care what vehicle you're driving. If you really want that vehicle, it's it's a lot of fun to put the work in and kind of find that diamond in the rough, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
John, I'm curious what colors of that Toyota's offering, because for one, what do they call the orange again? I always forget the name. Solar Octane.
Yep. Yeah. Solar Octane.
I love that. I'm sad that they're the lime, that green like you had. Like, I love that color. They seem to kind of give us a kind of more of a flat palette this time. Terra in person, I've seen it. I'm iffy on it. I don't know that I would ever purchase that color. But past that, it's just sort of the basic routine of what Toyota offers. They didn't give us too much.
Yeah. Terra only looks good to me on the Tacoma, and I think it's because of a lot of the black accents that TRD Pro has. It helps contrast it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, really the only standout one is probably Solar Octane, and the bronze oxide on the Trail Hunter looks good. That is a color that was on the Corolla prior, and it didn't do good in sales on the Corolla, Toyota told me. But now everyone is like Googling over it on the Tundra or on the Tacoma. And it would look good on the Tundra too. Like if they put that color on the Tundra, it would look really good. And then, yeah, the one on the left, Blue Crush Metallic, like those are really the only, and Supersonic Red, I guess, if you like red. So like those are really the only kind of standouty colors, but everything aside from that, I mean, you got your typical rental car silver, you got white, you got black, and it's not even like midnight black, it's just like a gloss black. So I mean,
They're black. When I do the build and price videos, I'm always amazed. They got to name colors. PR's got to name colors, make it exciting. But for Toyota, you get to black, it's just black.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, like not midnight or something like that. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
not something fun.
Yeah, and then Underground looks good. That was a color that was on the Camry, and I believe the Prius. I just kind of wish Underground had a little bit more of like a metallic-y flake to it, but it's just another gloss color. Tons of gloss colors. Very inexpensive, right? Again, to paint and produce, but yeah.
I did a review on the I had a TRD Pro Tundra and the Sequoia at the same time, and they were both in the solar octane. And that color, I love that color so much, man.
Hmm.
And even like in this photo, you don't realize how much metal flakes in it. You're like, oh, it just kind of looks like a flat color. But when you see that color up in person,
Oh yeah.
oh man, I love that
There's
color quite a
so
bit.
much flake to it, and it doesn't really change like some of their glossy colors, like in the overcast or whatever. But when the sun is hitting it, it is very shiny and very very flaky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks
What
good.
so with have you announced what you're buying yet? I mean,
Yes.
I know you said off road. Have you announced the colors and stuff?
Yeah, it's a solar octane.
Oh, okay.
It's got
Great
a
for
pop
YouTube.
in.
Great color for
Got yeah,
YouTube.
exactly. That's literally what I said. I was like, if this truck was my personal truck, it would probably be like an underground or a bronze oxide or something like that, like a more muted color. But I need it to stand out in the thumbnails, and the fact that the color's nice to look at, like, doesn't hurt at all.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. And
it
once
just
again, this
pops.
with this, I wish you could get, like they're doing with the Pro, the black roof with that. I think it would
Hmm.
look great with that black gloss roof with that truck.
Yeah.
But no, I think the off road is a great package, and I
Hmm.
like that they give it a little bit more hips to it. Bring the little plastic fenders out a little bit.
Hmm.
Once again, tires on this, I think just awful tires. I'm not a Goodyear guy, and I'm pretty sure the Goodyear Wranglers they put under this, right?
So some of them that they showed they had it, and I'm not sure. But this that for the TRD Off Road, it's actually a tire that they co-developed kind of with BFG. So it's like
Okay.
it's like a manufacturer tire that they worked with BFG. So it has a version of BFG all terrains, but they're technically not like in their KO series or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But they were better on road than any of the Goodyears that I've ever had from Toyota. Like the Goodyears, they're just such a hard, bad tire. I don't
Yeah.
care for them at all. But the BFGs on this one were actually pretty good.
I did you get to you drove the manual, right?
Yes. Uh huh.
What was your impressions of that? Because that was one thing I know people were excited. They were very upset that Ford didn't bring a manual in the Ranger. Chevrolets, no manuals. And I often say we talked about it. When you sell over 200,000 trucks a year, you're able to take that 5% market that wants a manual. You can take that hit where these guys that are, like Nissan, I think last year sold 50,000 of the
Oh
Frontier.
wow.
They
Yeah.
can't take a 5% hit on that truck of manual transmissions anymore. So,
Hmm.
what was your impressions of the manual?
Yeah, I mean, for someone who doesn't really drive manual transmission vehicles that much, it was fine. I mean, it has a very high release point, like a lot of trucks do, or Jeeps or whatever. But
Mhm.
it drove fine, and it came fairly natural to me. I don't know. I would buy an automatic. I'm not going to sit in traffic and mess with a manual all day. So like that, I'm not that 5%. But for those enthusiasts that want it and say that they wanted it, it's there, which is cool. I off-roaded it. It was surprisingly easy off-road. If you're in four low in first gear, I mean the truck doesn't have its own crawl gear, but I
Mhm.
mean still it is such a low gear ratio for first gear. It's pretty crazy with that truck in four low. So I mean it conquered rocks like crazy. I remember dropping it at one point and the RPMs like went down to 500 and it didn't stall. Like the truck is just going. So
Does it do the rev matching with it?
and it does have that too. So it
Okay.
has a IMT mode, and I definitely used that like when I drove the TRD Sport first. And I thought that I was shifting it right, and then the truck blips and rev matches for you. So I mean, yeah, if you want to be connected to the vehicle, just turn that button off, and you have a raw off road
Yeah.
or a raw manual transmission. But if you aren't the best, then you just click that button.
Does your audience do they ask you a lot about the manual? Because I see a lot of people are excited by it.
Surprisingly, yeah, like there are several comments. So they're like, "How was the manual? How was this?" So I finally the other day posted my manual off road video, and like a like a noob, I didn't have a camera on the outside of the truck. They were just all inside cameras. I'm like, how am I showing this truck off roading if I don't even have a camera outside? But it's whatever. I got the concept across of how a manual was to off road with, and It was good. Like I enjoyed it, but I would still be all about the new 8-speed transmission auto for this
Yeah,
truck.
I used to, if I always tell people if I want a manual, it's in a sports car.
Yeah.
I don't want, unfortunately for me, and I don't crap on people if that's what they want,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm tired of shifting, like
Mm-hmm.
especially off road. There's nothing worse than trying to rock crawl or something over something, and you're fighting three pedal or two pedals, one hand on a steering wheel. You got somebody trying to spot you out there. It's just too much anymore, and automatics are so good. Like
Yeah.
especially, we're not dealing with a 3-speed transmission anymore. Like
Right.
it's easy, and I usually, if I'm going out in the woods somewhere, it's because I want to be out in the woods. It's not because
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to prove anymore. I
Yeah.
just want to be out in the woods and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll have those friends or those people in the group sometimes that you're a guy, you want to bicker sometimes back and
Oh yeah.
forth, but at the end of the day, that friend's gonna be like, man, my leg's tired or whatever, like 6 hours on the trail or something like that. So, or just in normal traffic. I mean, we have such stupid traffic here. Like that is not a thing that I want to deal with all the time. I'm sure it would come natural if it was my daily, but I don't know.
Yeah. What killed me on a manual transmission was we went to East Tennessee to Gatlinburg. I don't know if you're familiar with Gatlinburg, Tennessee at
Hmm.
all, but it's touristy. It's up hills, and I had a 94 Firebird, a
Mm.
manual transmission, and it was stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. By the time we got to our cabin, my leg was so over the day of like having to hold a clutch in or whatever. And I was just
Mm.
like, you know what? I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done. And I took grief in my Mustang videos because the old school Mustang guy was like, why didn't you get a manual? You're not a real car guy if you didn't get a manual. And like, for one, the automatic's so much faster, especially in a sports car.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
up with it, buddy. And
Yeah.
two, I'm just over manuals. I like to drive them. If I do a press event, it's fun to get out there and do a little
Hmm.
shifting. But me personally, I'm not buying one anymore. I'm just I'm over it.
Yeah.
So John, I know you're in your videos. You started pulling parts off your truck,
Hmm.
and you're getting ready. You're like an expecting father. You're ready for your baby to come home. Do you think a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff might carry over to your new truck?
I think a lot of the bed stuff will, like just things that attach to the cleat system.
Mhm.
So Toyota had an event at the SEMA garage in California where they allowed a lot of engineers and companies, aftermarket companies, to go in there with their engineers and just scan the crap out of this Tacoma. They had several hours with this truck to like pull bumpers off, pull this off. Like I want to scan this area for our product, whatever. And the individuals that I talked to for that, they think that the bed rail situation is very close and like width wise to where they could just make some micro adjustments with like bed racks and everything that they
Mhm.
have right now and just bolt it up to the truck. But I think aside from that, there may not be a lot of carryover because it's a whole new underpinnings underneath the truck. Completely, it's a fully boxed frame instead of a C-channel frame. So like all the sliders and stuff from previous generation, like they're not going to
Yeah.
work on the truck just the way that they attach to that Tacoma in my garage. Like so, it's just completely different. So there may not be a lot of carryover, but I know that companies are gonna do stuff just right away with the truck. It's gonna
Oh,
be crazy.
100%. And I remember that was a big craze with the Bronco crowds was they couldn't wait to be one of the first to bolt something on there. And you're like,
Hmm.
man, and a lot of times I'm not big with 4-wheel parts products generally. And that was
Hmm.
one of the first ones to come out with them. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm going to wait.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
did. I have a Icon lift sitting in my living room right now that because I waited 2 years. I was like, because for one, for me, our Bronco, it's not ever going anywhere. We just like the
Hmm.
vehicle, and so we'll build it how we want to. I didn't need to
Hmm.
be the first on YouTube to do it, but like for what you're doing, you got to be one of the first to do it, and to have some of those parts just if they'll carry over would be humongous for you.
Yeah, it would. I have some video ideas, and I won't divulge them too much online
Dang it!
because I know
Dang
there's
it!
some people that have sniped some ideas sometimes, which is fine. And I'm all for competition, right? Because if you have a viral video that goes out of something, guess whose videos will be recommended right underneath, right? Like all of
Yep.
ours. So I personally don't care, but there are some nuggets that you're like, maybe I don't want to say that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, being the first would be cool, obviously, right? But I've gotten to the point where like it's just not kind of worth the headache sometimes. Like I try so hard to like get one of the first Tacomas. Whether it was talking with people at Toyota, how do I go about it? Putting deposits at like 5 or 6 dealerships, right? Like across the United States. So, I mean, like I tried really, really hard, and like there's still things that are out of my control with the truck. So like I've kind of just gotten to the point of like when it happens, it happens. And that's how it was with the military. Like you could say all this crap, but like just when I see it happen, it'll happen. So
Well, and then Toyota does play favorites sometimes with some creators, and one of them's already been through the vehicle, torn parts off of it, and I'm like, you couldn't have let the press have an equal opportunity.
I know
this, man.
That was one of the things I think I may have talked a little too loud about at a dealer.
I seen that. I did see that.
I was all like at a dinner or something at an event. I'm like, I'm gonna do a route with this truck and then take the air dam off and then do the same route. I think Andre was like, what are you doing with the truck?
Oh, they are, their reason they're one of the biggest outlets for breaking news on YouTube is because they pay attention 100%.
Oh, yeah. No, they do.
And they're all nice
Andre,
people, but
100%. And again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the live stream. Like that's the next step, right? Like, hey, all these people out west, like Motor Trend, they just got the truck. We're gonna send it off to the East Coast now, and John can have the truck for a week while he's waiting for his, and like really go through it. I mean, those views would be absolutely awesome for Toyota. Like you're telling me I get to have a truck for a week in my driveway as an enthusiast, and I get to ask my audience what do they want to see, and like just show it for a week, and then that truck goes off somewhere else. I mean, that would be incredible. That'd be so cool.
I will say I'm sure Toyota wasn't very happy about them pulling parts off the vehicle for that video.
Oh, really?
Though. I will say I guarantee you, though, they don't seem to ever get in trouble for too long. It's because they're a big outlet. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't want. They know the way they made that chin to come off. They know it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure they didn't want press out there tearing apart a vehicle.
Yeah.
So I am amazed for what we do. I know you get press vehicles from time to time. Of course, I think in your area, you're probably in that weird area like I am of fleet management, where it's like it's got to be a special vehicle to get to you. But
yeah, I
am amazed. There, a buddy of mine in Texas who is, I think he had a Nissan Frontier recently. Dude, he just mudded the piss out of this thing. In photos, you just see it's just covered in mud. I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to try. I wouldn't want to. You're going to wash it, obviously, but I wouldn't want to turn that into one of the fleet management people and be like, hey, I made a cool video.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes Toyota seems cool about it sometimes, and then sometimes not. But like when I first started getting press vehicles, it was a Tacoma. And the guy was like, is this your first vehicle? I said, yes, sir. And he's all like, I don't want to see it the same color. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if this is a test or what. So I was like, I messaged my PR guys like, how far can I take this? And he's like, whatever. I'm like, okay. So I mudded it and everything, made a whole video of it. And then I did, I hosed it off at a car wash to try to break down it and stuff. So, mud's not on the wheel while he's trying to go back up to Atlanta and everything. But yeah, but.
Also, you're out of the Atlanta area too then?
For now, yeah. So, I mean, it's not the best at all, to the point where I'm taking it like super seriously now for 2024. And we're actually planning to move down to the Tampa area. So then I would be based out of the Miami region. And those cars are crazy down there. So.
And good press association down there too. Very good press association. Good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and people don't realize, like, I got Chevrolet sent me over their Silverado ZR2 Bison. And dude, there was a list of things of like, don't do to this vehicle, and I'm just like,
oh really?
Yeah, I was like, thanks. Yeah.
It's kind of hard because like you want to show the vehicle off, right? And if there's too many not soft videos out there, but if people are trying to see what this truck is capable of, like,
Well, let's see, Johnny, you got a new subscriber today there, John.
There you go.
Yes, John is John's big into Ford. So
okay.
and he's from Canada, so he's one of the nicest people to ever fuss on a video.
Nice.
The whole nice Canadian thing.
Heck yeah. I appreciate it.
Guys, if you're on John's channel, come subscribe to our channel. At least smash the like button if you're watching it on mine. I'm sure you're watching on John's, but I do everything. I know John's specific, but you said you kind of want to maybe branch out a little bit and get into that. What was your, and I know I don't want to keep you much longer. What was your first press event where you felt kind of like, oh, I'm kind of in the club now a little bit?
Man, I still don't even think I'm in the club. You know, it's
It's an
kind of
awkward
like that.
situation. Yeah.
It's like that imposter syndrome you feel,
Mhm.
right? But when you go to these events, there's still like the clicky groups of the higher subscribers, and they've been doing this. And
Or
the thing for
magazine.
yeah,
You have written journalists, and then
mm-hmm.
they think less of YouTubers. It's very funny.
Yeah, and oh, back in my day, it wasn't all you guys. It's like, okay, I get it. And now I'm saying the same thing for TikTokers, right? But I feel like I'm never really in the club because I'm always, and I don't care to be in the club. But it's because like I'm just solely Toyota. So like
Mhm.
whenever I go to these events, I see all the same people and stuff. They all say hi. They're all super nice. But like I only see them at Toyota events where they may have just flown to the Toyota event from like a Honda event and now they're going to like a Ford event right afterwards. Like they're going to everything, and that's how they do it, right? So I only see it from Toyota events. That's it, and Lexus
Yeah.
now. But like that's it. So I mean, the first event I ever did though was the Tundra reveal in
Oh, nice.
Texas, and I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And like you see these people that you see online and stuff, and you're like, oh, you're whatever from whatever. They're like, oh yeah, how's it going? What's your channel? Oh, cool. Do you need any help? I'm like, no, I'm good. All right, cool. And then everyone's super nice. So
Yeah. I will say I learned from watching I was at when was that 2020 at the Chicago Auto Show.
mhm.
I watched Nissan was we thought the new Frontier was coming out, but it was just they revealed a new engine. But I
Mm,
watched TFL like give there was all the little drinks and stuff at these press events where people were talking. Dude, they give zero Fs, man. They were behind the curtains. They were doing business, and I thought,
mhm.
holy cow, I can see why. For one, they're one of their bigger outlets,
Yeah,
and two, like it's a business.
yeah,
Don't I'm and I trip people out. Like I'll go to SEMA or something, and I'm there for SEMA. I'm not there to party. I'm not there
hmm,
to, and I've had people kind of get upset with you, like, whoa, why are you not? And I'm like, this is a business trip. I'm in and out. If I'm on vacation, it's a different story.
right.
But I will say it gets kind of overwhelming. Some of these events, I've done some stuff with Nissan where they're whining and dining you, giving you all these bags of stuff, and you're just like,
Hmm.
look, man, I just want to do my. I'm here to do a job, like, and I don't think the audiences sort of understand that. Like
No,
I
yeah.
was watching one of your videos today where you had a GoPro hanging off the roof of the vehicle, and like you were saying, you only get so much limited time with these vehicles, and
Hmm.
that's a battle in itself. Trying to set up a vehicle, I need to be interesting, not the same shots that everybody else does.
Right.
You know,
It's especially solo too. I mean, it's because TFL now. Like when Andre, I only see him at like the truck event stuff because when they do car stuff, it's either Roman or his son, but like
yep.
Tommy. But like they now have a camera person, and I've thought about it sometimes too because like I mean yeah, it'd be awesome to be like the Radies, right? To have you and your wife going
Mhm.
to all these places together, and my wife, she helps me film some things in the garage sometimes, so like I'll have her do that stuff. I'm like, man, that was so nice and so easy. I mean, I could just have someone filming me in the car and just do this stuff or walk around with me real quick as I point this stuff out. So maybe I'll get to that point. I don't know. I just like it being in control of my own self.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I learned that too from a lot of the bigger creators, right? Is like, how did you get so big? And I see them jobbing it at these events because like the first couple events I had no idea what I was doing. Then the second, third, fourth, it's like, oh, it's lunchtime, I'll enjoy lunch. But now it's like, nah, everyone else
Mhm.
goes and enjoys the lunch. I'm missing lunch. That way I have all these cars to myself and stuff. So like, I mean, there's so many events now that I just eat a big breakfast and
Yep.
I don't even have lunch. I'm just like filming
That's
for 8 hours.
that's how I got time with this truck in Texas. Was
Yeah.
like it was lunchtime. Everybody was away from it, and I was like,
Mhm.
finally, I can
Yeah.
get near the truck, because that's the next thing I don't think people understand with what we do is you're battling, especially at car shows. If there's a new
Hmm.
reveal, I was at the last Jeep big reveal, and man, it was like you can't get the shot you want, you can't do what you want, and then you kind of feel like an asshole because you're trying to do something, and then you're in the way of everybody, and it's
Right.
so uncomfortable trying to document what you want to do, and that's a tough one. I'm lucky. A lot of times on those trips, my wife does go with me,
Nice. Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm kind of lucky. But then my problem is I know what I want to do in my head, and I don't tell her, and
Mm.
then we won't fight. but she'll be
Yeah.
like, look, time out. Tell me what you want, because because I'm trying to guide. There's nothing worse than you're trying to do a walk around and you're trying to guide whoever's holding the camera around with you, and they
Right.
don't know what you're about to
Yeah.
do,
What you're
and
about
we
to do
didn't script
next.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like, follow my hands. If I'm pointing to something, move the camera with my hands. If I'm not pointing anything, like just stare at me.
oh,
know?
100%. Oh,
Yeah.
you were talking about the ratties, man. Like watching them work is it's art. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
have it down.
Yeah.
Like Joe is so good with, I don't know if how much thought he's put into each truck, but I was watching him at Chicago Auto Show, man, and they just would walk up to something. 3 minutes later, he's doing his walk arounds, like, and they're so well done. And I'm like, man, if I could just be a quarter of that good
Yeah.
at these car shows. Of course, they do it. They're nonstop.
Oh,
It's nuts.
nonstop. He doesn't miss a day of uploads. He's absolutely incredible. I've seen sometimes before he films, so he has like little notes real quick about the vehicle that he'll just
Mhm.
read. And his prior occupation, I mean, he was a history teacher,
Yeah.
so for his brain to just read something, remember it, and recite it to like a class, his audience, like one take like that is just it's incredible. I mean, he just watching his videos online too, you're like, there's no cuts. He just talked about all this for 20 minutes straight, and
Yep.
he was good. Okay,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I was at
Where I
the
cut like
Ranger
within the
launch with
first
it.
10 seconds.
Yeah, no, they give you the little packets that read the highlight, what they want you to talk about. No, I'm awful with that. I'm like, I forgot it already. I'm trying to look at a sheet, trying to talk, and that's awful on camera.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, there's a lot of editing to what I do. Big plans for 24. You were saying, you going in deeper? What's the plans for your channel?
Yeah, so for 2024, hopefully getting this Tacoma this month, trading in my current Tacoma, and then it's hopefully a big road trip with that truck, and maybe take it out west, work with some companies out there that may want to see the truck, do some R&D stuff, off road with people, go out to the desert, just anything with that truck,
Yeah.
and then road trip back. Uh, New Land Cruiser stuff, hopefully, too, this year. They said around spring time frame for that. And then moving as well down to the Tampa area just to get more press vehicles because
Yeah.
the Radies are down there. A lot of big automotive YouTubers are actually down there. More than I even knew. Like from Central Florida to the Tampa area down like Fort Lauderdale. Like there's a ton, and I didn't even know like everyone's down there. They're like, "Oh, you're in Florida too? Where at?" I'm like, "I'm in the Panhandle." They're like, "Oh." So like Lower Alabama. I was like, yeah, I need to get down your guys' way.
Yeah, you're Alabama.
Yeah. So like it sucks to like just up and move, but like that's what the military was about all the time. So it's whatever.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, but it's just I know that will really open doors, and then hopefully we get a couple other new Toyotas this year that our audiences really want to see, and then just roll with it and just
Land Cruiser. I'm excited for Land Cruiser, man. I really,
oh yeah.
if I knew of a good dealership that wouldn't screw me over, I probably would go all in with a Land Cruiser because, for one, I think it looks great. I'm happy that it's not the pig that kind of it was turned into with the 300 series. I'm glad they scaled it down a little bit. The four-cylinder doesn't bother me, like you were saying earlier. It's a hybrid, so it's going to be torquey and fun. But I just think that's a cool looking vehicle. And for when they lost FJ, it kind of sucked. And I know it's not like an FJ, but it is sort of that same audience. I think is what they're looking at is off-road vehicle SUV. Maybe it's not as cool and weird as the FJ was, but that crowd has been begging for something from Toyota, and don't know where 4Runner is going to end up. Let me add, let me wrap you up on that.
Okay.
Where because I thought it was strange. They're like mid 50s. Of course, mid 50s could honestly, who knows? It could be 58, 59 anymore. They're what they call mid 50s, but 4Runner, we see everything going more expensive. 4Runner is old as can be. We know what 25 is kind of when we're expected to see it. Maybe see it, not necessarily get one, but see it. That's stuck in a hole, right? Like, do they go cheaper with the 4Runner now, or are they kind of downgraded a little bit, or with the new Land Cruiser, it's a weird conundrum because they're in the same spot.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that helps the 4Runner is the fact that the Land Cruiser is just a little bit wider, a little bit longer, like just a tiny bit bigger, right, in body proportions than the current 4Runner. So I feel like with the Land Cruiser stepping in front of the Sequoia instead of being this, sorry, Land Cruiser lovers, this overly priced just vehicle that Toyota has with what the 200 series really was. I mean, it's beautiful, right? Built in Japan, V8,
Mhm.
whatever. But like, my God, it was so expensive for what it was. Now, like, it's in the middle, and then the Forerunner is this little guy right here in that price ladder that we were talking about earlier. But I don't know. I'm gonna make a video about this, and I already have it written down on my board. And I've talked to my audience about it too. I've just been waiting for it not to be freaking raining here the last 4 or 5 days. Um, I really hope that one of my expectations for the Forerunner is like the price may just be pretty close to the same, right? Like they have cash cowed the crap out of that vehicle for the last 14 years. So hopefully with that they're able to say, hey, you know what, the MSRP on this isn't going to bump up that much, kind of like the Grand Highlander when
Mhm.
that pricing came out compared to the normal Highlander. I'm just like, why would you not just buy a Grand Highlander? It's only like a
Yeah.
$1,000 more. So hopefully that's kind of how the Forerunner is, like with all the trim packages, because I mean the TRD Pro right now already is like $56,000 for a Forerunner, which is so old, and like that is just stupid money, right? So I mean,
Feels
hopefully
old.
like the new one doesn't encroach too much on Land Cruiser. And I know for 55 for a Land Cruiser mid 50s, it's cloth seats, it's not the best looking, and then Forerunner at like 60 would be pretty balls to the walls and good, but it really just depends on what the Tacoma hybrid pricing is, because that I feel like will really determine a lot of
Yeah.
Forerunner stuff looking forward, especially because it's going to most likely share all the same powertrain and literally everything that the Tacoma has.
Yeah. It's what they pretty close to always being pinned under the same framing, right?
Yeah, so with Toyota's new TNGF platform, like the core of the frame is pretty much all the same for like the Sequoia, the Tundra, the Tacoma, Land Cruiser, LX models, GX. Like a lot of the underpinnings are the same for these trucks, just kind of moved around in certain ways to make it work for like an SUV application or
Mhm.
smaller cross members for a shorter midsize truck application. So it's going to ride on that same platform as well. So I mean, it'll be like a Land Cruiser and Sequoia, you know, at the end of the day.
Which is great for you guys wanting the big suspension. Usually a lot of that stuff carries over. So you can take Tundra suspension and shove it
Yeah.
under the little trucks, which is
Yeah.
the Nissan
That,
guys were doing. They
yeah.
were putting they called it a Titan swap. They were taking the Titan suspension because you would get 3 more inches of travel and it
Mm,
would stretch it out so you could
that's
get a
wild.
lot more flex and you could go to a salvage yard
Yeah.
and pick
Yeah.
this
I'm
stuff up.
I'm super interested to see how that's going to be, because for aftermarket companies that's great, right? Like you develop, especially if when they R&D it, so cool, that suspension will work on the Land Cruiser, the Forerunner, and the Tacoma, because it's all multi-link rear suspension too. It's not
Yeah.
like it's different with leaf springs or anything like that. So yeah, I mean that would be way sick. So I can have this kit that's been proven on the Land Cruiser last year and put it on my Forerunner this year. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Like that's way cool.
So you don't see them taking the Forerunner though and kind of taking it more back to its roots, more of an affordable.
No.
No.
I mean, cool. If I'm wrong, hey, 100%, let's go for it, right? Like, but I feel with where the Land Cruiser is and where the Sequoia is, the Forerunner has a little bit of room to, I guess, be edgy. So I'll agree with you on that. A little bit more room to be edgy with the Forerunner, but I feel like they still have to. I don't think it'll have a removable top or anything like that. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll just
I've seen
be.
people asking for that and I'm like, there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way.
That's what the Land Cruiser should have been. Like when the Land
Yes.
Cruiser came back, or now that the Land Cruiser is going to be like a nameplate, like if they bring something like that back, but I don't see the Forerunner doing that.
Daryl has concern about the air suspension, which I will say generally you get 50 to 100,000. That's usually when air suspension starts being a
Hmm.
problem. So, is there air suspension under that? I don't recall that.
Not the new one.
Okay.
Not the new one. To my knowledge, the only truck that has air suspension is going to be the Sequoia and the um the Tundra. I don't think that the Land Cruiser has any sort of like EKDSS, like hydraulic suspension or air suspension, but I may be wrong. I need to look in the press material, but I'm like 96% sure that it just has standard suspension under it.
Yeah.
I may be wrong though, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure if it shares some stuff with GX.
Yeah. And guess what, guys? occasionally we are wrong. I
I'm not a Toyota Jeff encyclopedia that I know everything,
yeah,
dude. I have to
yeah.
look stuff up.
I dropped a video yesterday on the new Dodge Charger or Challenger, whatever they're going to call it, and the old badging. Like I took crap on because this weird triangle old logo, and it's something they used for like 8 years.
Oh.
And only old school people go. And I'm like, what's up with this triangle badging? And dude, I've gotten comment after comment about, well, you're not a car guy. And I'm like, look, man, like you were saying, like you are all in on Toyota and don't know everything. Try doing the whole industry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
why I
miss
don't.
things, man.
I'm like, that's setting me up not for failure, but so many errors. Like the moment I got into the truck scene of Toyota and stuff, man, truck comments are just toxic. Holy crap! I'm like, oh my gosh, if you have such a wiener for Ford and Chevy, why are you dropping comments on a Toyota video? Like go watch your own videos. Come on, people.
The Facebook groups are so fun for that to watch.
Oh
Like the
my
little
gosh.
trolls want to jump in. You're just like, I got better things to do with my life than want to
Yeah.
fight with people.
Yeah, no kidding, dude.
So what's anything coming up this week that you want to divulge for videos?
For me personally, I just got my Tundra back from the dealership. I've had a
Oh, you had that
saga.
window issue, right?
Oh my God, yes. But I've gotten that back from the dealership, along with a couple recalls done for it. It had the fuel tank issue that Toyota has with them using plastic stuff for fuel, and then a parking brake recall the electronic parking brake. So they completed that. The whole door rattle issue is, knock on wood, it's okay for now. Truck loyalty is dumb. I love all trucks. Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's healthy to like everything. I grew up Chevy and Fords, growing up, and they never let us down. The turbo boot blew off our Duramax one time towing a fifth wheel trailer, but guess what? Hose clamp, boom, it's back on. You drive.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I got that video coming up. Some things that I want to see with the 6th generation 4Runner. And I have a whole list written down. Should you upgrade to the 24 Tacoma or stay with the 3rd gen? A whole bunch of stuff on my board over there.
Nice.
So.
Well, I have a board way over there, much like that. Like you got to write ideas down when you get them.
I know. It's usually on my notes, and then it goes to the board. And then I am trying to, as much as I have been against it, I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more, and I feel like audiences, now that short form content is forcing creators to actually produce good content instead of just like, hey, here's a super shitty 5-second video, like go like it, like
Right.
You can get a lot of good information in a minute. That takes you like 30 minutes to edit to an hour to edit, like a good informational video. So I'm starting to get into that a little bit more because I've realized that a lot of content in the past that you can make a whole video about is really only worth like a 1-minute conversation now, like a topic. So I have a whole bunch of short form content too.
You look at retention time now too, and it's like
so bad.
Man, I don't know what I have to do. You hear Mr. Beast going, if you're not hitting 80% retention time, you're like, I wish.
Yeah, I can't start out every video saying that I bought a private island and I'm flying in all these people. Like, sorry guys, that's not what our content's about,
Right. Well, dude, it was awesome to have you on here. I'm going to be in your comments, and I like going over there when I get a chance. What is it, Tuesday nights that you're doing that?
Yeah, I try to do it Tuesday nights, and I try to be pretty consistent with that. So I'm usually, always do it on Tuesdays. It seems like the audience is pretty decent on Tuesdays. I don't have any analytics to see what we're at right now, but I did go live on my page, so I don't know how many viewers we're at, but Tuesday seems to work pretty decent for me.
Well, I can guarantee you they're more of your viewers than mine. That's what I can guarantee.
That's all good. It's all good. Well, if they enjoyed you and they enjoyed your voice and enjoy all-terrain stuff and just everything, right? Because, you do a good amount of
we
things
do a little bit of
channel,
everything.
So
definitely. Well, dude, I appreciate you being on here. I definitely want to check back with you down the road and kind of see, especially once you get your truck. I want to ask you some awful questions. And get the good answers is what I'm looking for of my awful questions. But we do greatly appreciate you being on here, guys. So obviously, if you're on my channel, I'm sure you know who TRD Jon is. So I'm sure you're already subscribed. But if not, get your ass over there. Go subscribe. He's nearing 100K, and believe it or not, that's a huge deal. Our buddy Tim
plaque to put onto my stuff right here. Yeah.
See, he's got a blank spot just sitting there, just waiting.
It's just waiting. It says please subscribe. It's just waiting. You guys can't see it, but
that's what you need to do. Put a little vinyl graphic with an arrow that goes here
with a neon arrow or something.
Yeah, but help John out, help him get to that 100,000. There's a lot of good info, and if you're just a car person, I love the fact that I used to do just Nissan only, and that's a tough brand to only want to do. But I like the fact that there's good channels that do everything, like Tim with pickup truck plus SUV. But if you want to know more specifics, go to the specific channels like your channel, man, and you always do a good breakdown. And I've tried to follow you everywhere I can, basically. So
I appreciate it.
I don't miss anything. So guys, whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, or these badass mid-size trucks that I like to drive, this has been your All Terrain Nation. We've been talking with TRD Jon here on the channel. Peace, everybody.